Memorial will be maintaining all displays in their current format. They will go ahead with planning their expansion to the rear of the War Memorial, where they will include an enlarged Afghanistan and Iraq displays to commemorate Australia's longest war and the Iraq War. In due process, they will decide how they will include the Brereton report and the official findings from the Prime Minister's Office of Special Investigation Inquiry into Australia's National Archives, and that will be done so as per the legislature of the War Memorial with their board decision with public opinion, and that decision does not need to be made now. It's so important to realise that we need to remove all of these non-essential decisions and allow this investigation to continue, because the more we are digging up at the moment is the more trauma we are causing those families of those who have already fallen, the more we are not affording the presumption of innocence and allowing the correct processes to abide by those who now need to have their day in court and stand trial, and the more that is being done to set a terrible example for the future generation who we want to come to places like this War Memorial and be inspired by tracing back that legacy of our Anzacs all the way back to all the wars and conflicts Australians have fought in, and to be able to come and commemorate those members of their family who have fallen doing so and make sure that they are commemorated in the way that they need to. And that's why we're going to come here today, visit those names of those fallen from Afghanistan that we know personally, make sure that it inspires us to move forward and best defend them in maintaining their meritorious unit citation for the meritorious service that they performed, and do so in a way that is respectful to their families and to all Australians.
The military is perhaps our most trusted institution in the country. What does this inquiry, or the findings of this inquiry, do to that and the regard in which it's held?
The military has and will always be the most trusted constitution of this country. This report goes back to 2016. The last Special Forces rotation in Afghanistan came out in 2013. And in those 7 years since, there have been dozens of Special Forces missions and operations that the Australian public does not yet know about, that have served the Australian public in quiet, putting themselves at great risk, and have continued to do so. I would call on our senior leaders to make sure that message is portrayed to the Australian public, so as that any people that may be wavering in their dedication to where it should be within our fantastic armed forces is swayed by fact as opposed to public opinion.
What's your reaction to the allegations in the report?
The allegations are indeed confronting, and my reaction is that I look forward to this now being passed forward to the Office of the Special Investigator for investigation. It's so important to note that this Brereton inquiry has gone on for 4.5 years, and within the Special Forces community, which is already isolated by the nature of the secrecy we need to maintain for operational purposes, it has forced individuals to be unable to even talk to each other about any of the information within this report for fear of being court-martialed. And as a result, within the veteran community, we are still and have been experiencing the largest mental health crisis, with over 600 suicides over the last 20 years. The first commando who spoke out saying that his actions were not in accordance with law of armed conflict and rule of law has committed suicide during the conduct of this inquiry. The casualties are much larger than are being depicted by this report, and much larger than it's being depicted on the Roll of Honour inside.
What do you think would be an appropriate reaction?
Sorry, an appropriate reaction by?
The report, what should be done in response to the allegations of the report? You don't want
Yep.
meritorious citations to be taken away?
Yeah, I believe the appropriate reaction should have been for our Prime Minister to acknowledge that the report has been completed and will now be passed over to the Office of Special Investigation, and will now allow our constitutional right, our democratic right, for the presumption of innocence to be afforded to those while criminal investigation occurs. The fact that it's taken the Chief of the Defence Force 6 days to personally review the report when he received it behind closed doors from Major General Brereton, to then decide that 6 years worth of Special Forces rotations are no longer meritorious in operations, is absolutely disgusting. And now his recommendation to take that to the Governor-General is what we are adamantly petitioning, and over 40,000 Australians have already signed up to the petition at voiceofaveteran.org.